The king of the Luchadores, Dirty Dominik Mysterio, had his first in-ring promo since becoming the Intercontinental Champion and the Mega Champion, and boy, was it a doozy. This promo would herald the return of Dom's deadbeat dad, Rey Mysterio, who had issues with Dom proclaiming himself the king of the Luchadores and calling himself the greatest Mysterio of all time. Maybe we're about to see Rey Mysterio's retirement tour about to kick off. We also got a very interesting interaction between Dominik and Roxanne, because how are you going to push the man onto the couch like that, Roxanne? Where Dom actually did something Roxanne suggested, and it was genuine. And she told him to be the bigger man, because he is the king of the luchadors. There was also some very interesting details in the clubhouse that I think y'all might have caught, might not, but I'm going to be pointing that out as well. Roxanne also picked up the win for her team, so she is building up her win total, which is needed. And of course, Finn and JD lost because of Sheamus. So we have an interesting Raw to talk about. Fuck Logan Paul forever. But in all honesty, it was a nice Raw that people thought were going to be filler, and it wasn't. So, welcome. My name is Ryder Maven. I am the host of the Wrestling Receipts podcast. I cover all things Judgment Day, Dom, Liv, Raquel, Finn, JD, Roxanne, Poor Carlito, and El Grande Americano, and Los Americanos. This Raw review is titled, "You Keep My Father's Name Out Your Mouth," because Dom has claimed Eddie as his real father over his deadbeat dad Ray. And that line was hilarious. That's just pure Dom. And I was just waiting for him to finally do that, and he finally did. He just pretty much claimed Eddie Guerrero as his real father. And in canon, he's right, because he is actually Eddie Guerrero's son. It's just that Ray and Angie adopted Dom. So it's right in WWE canon and kayfabe. Eddie is Dom's father. So when you hear him land that line, I'm just cackling at that point, because I was just so excited about this nice confrontation between Ray and Dom, and they're going back and forth, and he lands that line, and like I said, I'm just dying. I am really happy for them to finally be kicking off Dom versus Ray. This is something personal. We got lots of history behind it. You can have Ray was here in this promo being upset about Dom calling himself King of the Luchadors and the greatest Mysterio of all time, and invoking the greats that he's better than, what was it, Mil Mascaras and Eddie. He claimed to be better too. So you had Dom acting in heel fashion. And yes, even though Dom is getting cheered, he's being the heel. And like I keep saying, he's going to stay heel at least for the duration of this feud. You can't have him go face during this feud, because you lose a lot. He can go face afterwards or tweeners, which I hope, but he can't really go face now. You'll lose a lot if he does that. But even with all that promo was everything. This was Dom's first in-ring promo. Can you believe that it took from WrestleMania back in, April, May, till now for Dom to get his first in-ring promo? Yeah, he had an in-ring promo a couple of weeks ago, but that was during commercial break where not everybody sees it. This one is on Raw. He had the crowd. He was talking his shit, being a cocky little ass that he is, and I loved it. And I'll be getting into that and breaking it down a little bit more later. We are getting more interactions between Dom and Roxanne. Now, keep in mind that I'm not saying they're going to be cheating. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that we're getting some interactions picked up now between Dom and Roxanne. And like I said, the way Roxanne pushed that man on the couch was unbelievable. I'm like, oh, Roxanne. But I actually like how Roxanne actually said, "Hey, you're the king of the luchadors. You need to be the bigger man." And that actually goes into Dom's favor, because he did give it a genuine try. And it was different from how he's been acting before with Finn, and I'll get into that later too. Because I can at least point out where I can see where Finn will be mad about it, but since Dom gave it the old college try, he can't lord that over Dom's head as a mistake, but I'll get into that later too. Before I get into all things Judgment Day, just some brief notes from Monday Night Raw that I do want to talk about that I liked and didn't like. Asuka and Kairi, I love them. Asuka has been killing it as a heel. Absolutely killing it. I love her. She's been talking her ship. She and Kairi have a vibe. Still an abusive relationship, but they have a nice vibe there as the Kabuki Warriors. I did like their match with Bayley and Lyra. And Asuka did bring up her letting Bayley go last week because she said, I gave you some kindness. It's just that type typical heel thing. I gave you this little bit of kindness, but I won't be giving you no more kindness after this. Something like that, paraphrasing here. And then Asuka had a really interesting stare down with Becky because Becky came out to talk her shit about Maxine. And he was saying, this ref is all against me. And then when she was walking out, she runs across Asuka and Kairi coming out for their match. And they had a really interesting stare down there. And I'm like, are we gearing up for some war game stuff? Because it's around the corner. So is Becky going to be on Asuka's team? Or is it something that's going to shift where we get Bayley on Asuka's team and then Becky on the face team? It'll be really interesting. But they won their match, the Kabuki Warriors against Bayley and Lyra, and that brought out Charlotte and Alexa, and they will be having a tag team title match next week. So I look forward to that. Also, we got the first matches for the My Time Is Now tournament for John Cena's last opponent. They're doing it like Tumbler style, which is really cool. So if y'all remember the Tumbler, they would use that for Royal Rumble numbers. So they're using it for picking names out of the hat for set up the tournament for the My Time Is Now tournament. So next week we'll have Sheamus versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and then we will have Rusev versus Damian Priest. And I hope Damian and Finn are far away from that fucker. Speaking of Rusev, before I get into all things Judgment Day, he sounded like he was going back to Rusev Day during his little interview with Byron Saxon during during an ad break. So you might not have seen it, but he went back to Rusev Marshka, if y'all remember that from a long time ago, which is kind of tied into Rusev Day. So I'm like, oh, we're going back from whatever Rusev was having now back to Rusev Day. And that might get him back to face, because Rusev Day was really cool. And if we get, what's his name? Like was it Simon? Not Simon, gosh. Whoever that dude was. I can't think of his name. You know who I said. He was the one that would sing Rusev Day. He's a commentator for TNA now. So if we ever get that dude back just to announce Rusev back to the ring from time to time, I'll be happy with it, because I actually like those two together. Because they really got Rusev Day over before Vince pretty much pulled the rug out from under him. But all that aside, let us get into Monday Night Raw, shall we? Pre-Raw, they revealed the poster for War Games, and it features Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Paul Heyman. Now, this upsets some people because since Survivor Series War Games is going to be in San Diego, they were hoping it would be like Rey and Dom on there, and it might end up that eventually, but I just had to say, like, you know how Triple H is. Like, Rey and Dom are barely getting acknowledgement now as it is. You know how long it took Rey Mysterio to get treated right in WWE? Same thing with Dom going on right now. It is what it is. That's why I was saying you gotta be careful when you say people trusting them to go right by Dom, because I said this could turn really quick on how they treat Dom. So just enjoy the ride how it is right now. Dom also had a really nice Dia de Muertos promo with the San Diego Padres commercial, and I think that's in collaboration with Nike. And if you catch that, they put that on the YouTube, so you can go check that out. So he has that little commercial going on with the San Diego Padres. Now, let us get into Raw, shall we? First off, for Judgment Day, we had Roxanne and Raquel versus Stephanie and Nikki Bella. This is a nice little match. It's one of those matches where what it is, but it did what it was supposed to. You had Nikki in peril, and then Stephanie gets the hot tag, and then Raquel is showing off her power moves, which is what she needs to do. They teased the major confrontation between Stephanie and Raquel, so they didn't really interact much, which I actually like. They didn't leave too much out there on the table. They'll save that for their next match, which is coming up next week. But I did like that they just teased the interactions there. Stephanie was not able to lift Raquel into her finisher, which is like, what was it, that driver across the knee? She was trying to do it and she couldn't. So that might come up next week, where she was trying to put Raquel into this move and she couldn't do it. The finish came when Roxanne was trying to roll up Nikki. Nikki sat down to pin her, and then Roxanne threw Nikki into the ropes to get out of it. And then Raquel, who was taking care of Stephanie because she had Stephanie into the fireman's position and threw her onto the ring apron, like bounced her off of that. Raquel just pretty much takes her fist and belts Nikki, which allows Roxanne to get Nikki into the pop box position where she hits and pins Nikki 1, 2, 3. They take off after this. There was no post match beatdown or anything like that. It was just them Raquel and Roxanne celebrating and then leaving the ring as victors. Just takeaways from this: Roxanne is getting some needed wins. That's against Nikki, but that's a Hall of Famer, and I am really happy that Roxanne is getting wins. She needs wins. For the amount of people that always want to bitch about Roxanne, you need her to have wins so whenever Liv comes back, she has the wins. And she's not way down here while Liv is way up here. You want some equalness here. You're going to be coming into a hot story, you got to be building Roxanne up, and this is the best way to do it. Nikki can take a few losses here. She's a Hall of Famer. She can bounce back, and Roxanne is getting those wins, which I'm happy for. We get the teaser for Stephanie versus Raquel, which they will have a title match next week. And it looks like Nikki Bella is turning heel, but I don't like it because it is so fucking obvious. Why are we doing just the obvious route? Why are we making Stephanie look like a goober here, where she's just so trusting of Nikki? I don't like that. That's what I don't like about some of these face and heel turns. At least with Logan Paul, with his asshole self, it was a little bit of maybe a hope shot he would turn face, and he didn't. But here, Nikki is just so obvious with her going to turn heel on Stephanie that there's no drama or build up to us. When she does it, it's not going to be a surprise. You know what I mean? But anywho. So then we got El Grande Americano versus Penta. One after El Grande's loaded mask backfired, where he was able to kick it, and then it just pretty much knocks El Grande Americano out. We did get the funny visual of Rayo digging in his junk for the loaded disc. So El Grande wants the disc, and then you have Rayo digging in his junk for that disc. Why are we digging in your junk for that? This feud might continue. Just because Los Americanos went after Penta after and he escaped after fighting him off a little bit. So we might get a little bit of a feud here with Los Americanos and Penta. It might be just something to give Penta something to do in the meantime. Now we go into Dom's in-ring promo. This was Dom's first in-ring promo as champ, let alone double champ. Wanted people to bow down to the King of the Luchadores. The crowd was loving him. Talked a lot of shit about being the greatest Mysterio of all time. And King of the Luchadores, pretty much. And Luchador. He's just talking shit. This brings out Rey Mysterio, and I could pretty much say, as soon as Dom paused at a certain point, I'm like, here comes Rey, because there was a rumor at the start of the night that Rey Mysterio was there. And he did comes out. Commentary says that Rey has been medically cleared because he did have that injury around WrestleMania time, if you remember that. So now these two start having a back and forth, and this is what I love because they have so much history to reach back on. Rey was getting a little bit of booze here, but that's par for the course. Rey is loved, but Dom is getting loved too. Rey invokes Eddie, which gets Dom booed. So keep that in mind. And then you get Dom saying, keep my father's name out your mouth. And then he says, I'm better than Eddie Guerrero and Mil Mascarenas and all that. So he's just really talking his shit. Rey pretty much says that he will never be the greatest Mysterio, and while he's around, and he's just pretty much saying, as long as I'm around, you will never be the greatest at anything. Greatest Mysterio, greatest Luchador, anything like that. They start fighting, and then Rey gets Dom into the 619 position, but Dom was able to retreat after that, so where Rey wasn't able to hit the 619. Oh, prior to that, Dom was like, do I have to beat your ass again? Which is interesting because he had Liv's help to do that. So it's Dom is just a really cocky type of guy right now. And that just fits because he's a double champ and he's gonna talk his shit. So we are back on track with the family feud. This could be retirement day, Rey's retirement tour as well. Like I said, I really don't think Dom is gonna get turned here. Not for this feud. Now we'll look into this after this feud. But for right now, they need to keep Dom a certain way, especially if they're going to give him Cena. If he's in the tournament and he gets to Cena, you have to have Dom a certain way until he gets past those feuds. So Rey and possibly Cena, he needs to stay this certain way, even though he's getting cheered, so they can have that type of storyline, and then after that, they can see about possibly turning him tweener. I'd say tweener. I don't think he can do babyface right now. Now, we have the Judgment Day Clubhouse. And Finn and JD come in on Raquel and Roxanne being happy. Roxanne informs them that Raquel has a title match next week against Stephanie. JD has the most funniest reaction to Raquel to that announcement because he's like, "Big Mommy cool?" He was stoked. Finn is saying they're bringing gold back to the Judgment Day, which I find interesting. How you're all about wanting gold back in the Judgment Day. Dom comes in all pissed, of course, about Rey interrupting his promo, ruining the scene. Then this is where it gets interesting. Dom asks where Finn and JD were, and Finn fires back like, "Well, you didn't want us out there because you wanted to be out there by yourself." So he's pretty much saying that Dom wanted to have the spotlight to himself. And so we got that little interaction where it's like Dom is like here, and I can't really say if it's more a big-headed thing or if it's just Dom didn't want his moment, which he hasn't gotten. So it's kind of hard to put this in the Dom being big headed when Dom hasn't had the promos to himself. Dom has been having all these promos by himself, and then he's asking Finn and JD where they were. Then I can see that. But it's one of those things where they need to stop with the "you weren't there for me" type thing, because nobody's been out there for each other for months at this point. So it's just really awkward. I'm still thinking they're still working with the older script or something like that, because it's still awkward and the storyline is still kind of fucked up. But Finn hands Dom Sheamus' shillelagh, and they walk out. Now, again, here's another interesting part. This is where Roxanne pretty much shoves Dom onto the couch. I'm like, girl, damn. And she was saying, she pretty much said, like, he kind of set up for Finn and JD to lose the titles because of how he got them into those, into that tag team title match last week. And that's true. It is true. And then she says he needs to be yours. And then Dom was like, right. And then he leaves. This leaves Roxanne and Raquel leading to where they would put things in the clubhouse after Dom leaves. Now, here's something interesting as well. In the clubhouse, peep on the skeleton, there is Dom's hat and Roxanne's shirt. Under Liv's picture in the corner there was Liv's bat, and I think that has returned because it wasn't there last week. Said they really need a new line about no one being there for each other because nobody's been around each other for months. Like, they've been so segmented kind of right now. Now that they're saying you should have been there, it's just really odd because nobody's been there. And nobody's really said anything about it either. Finn and JD were, but then you have Dom winning on his own, so it doesn't make sense. Dom acknowledged Roxanne, so people need to stop about Dom not really acknowledging Roxanne. He is. Actually, he's doing a little bit more interactions with her, actually. And he did listen to her advice, which we will see in the coming up match. Like I said, that showdown was something else. And like I say, we may not be getting the cheating storyline, but we do see some more interactions picking up. So I'll get into something else that I've noticed about this later on, or at least regarding Dom and Roxanne, but I'll get into that later on when I wrap this up. So for the tag team title match, we had Team AJ Lee versus Finn and JD. Dom shows up with Sheamus' shillelagh, so he's listening to Roxanne's advice. Dom was trying to help Finn and JD, and he did. He gave it the old college try. It would backfire though because Finn would get driven into Dom's belt. He was going in first where Dom was in the corner trying to distract the ref, and then Finn gets driven into the corner where Dom gets knocked off, and then Finn gets his head on Dom's belt because Dom's wearing the Intercontinental belt. And then later, Finn would tell Dom to hit AJ with the belt because AJ had got knocked into the ropes where the aisleway is. So Dom goes over there with the belt. He gets caught with the ref. Now, this is where I'm saying that this was a genuine effort because he wasn't doing things to draw attention to himself with the ref. It was just one of those ways where Dom just got caught. And then while Dom got caught, here comes Sheamus because Sheamus is all pissed. And so he takes out Dom, and then he gets onto the ring apron to get after JD and Finn because Finn is still having the shillelagh. And then this is where Finn takes the shillelagh and hits AJ with it. And he goes for the pin, and then that gets broken up at the last minute by Dragon Lee, who has some impeccable timing. I'm telling you, that man is insane. Later on, everything starts breaking down because Dom goes to try and help again, and then Sheamus starts attacking Dom, and they kind of go back and forth until they go into the crowd there. And another interesting bit here, Dom did not run away from Sheamus. With Rusev, he ran away. And I was saying that was intentional then because he pretty much left JD there. He left JD for AJ and Dragon Lee there too, but here he didn't. He just got beaten up and ran off, and he just got beaten up and tossed into the crowd. So it wasn't like Dom was purposely running away here. So there's a difference. You can tell when Dom is doing stuff accidentally on purpose, like chair slides and things like that. Here he was being genuine, so I do really think he was trying to help here genuinely. And this is where AJ gets, I think, JD into the Styles Clash, hits it, 1, 2, 3, and they retain. So, from here, this was a nice little match that advanced some things. Like I said, it seemed to take Roxanne's advice to her heart and offer a genuine help to Finn and JD. No accidentally on purpose stuff. Finn just couldn't capitalize on it. They might be setting up Sheamus versus Dom, and I know that was probably going to come too, because everybody wants to say, well, Sheamus is going to complete his Grand Slam. I don't think Sheamus would get it, but I do think that's getting set up for Sheamus versus Dom. And we might see maybe later on that maybe Finn was upset about Dom, but maybe this is where we see Roxanne's like, hey, he gave it his best shot. You can't capitalize on it. That's not Dom's fault. So yeah, that was Raw. Overall notes for tonight, again, but Logan Paul. Dom seems to have two feuds setting up with Rey and Sheamus. I'm really betting that Dom is either going to be Dom interfering with Sheamus or maybe Finn and JD interfering with Sheamus where Shinsuke advances there. So I think that match is going to get interfered with. Raquel versus Stephanie is next week for the women's title. I don't think Raquel is winning that title unless Nikki turns and costs Stephanie the title. But I think it's too soon, and that's the first title defense for Stephanie, and I don't think they would do that. It's possible, I won't discount it, but it just seems highly unlikely that Raquel wins here on a Monday Night Raw. So I do think maybe Nikki might turn on Stephanie after, but just where Raquel will win, no, I don't think so. And that's Raw.